Jake Warner stood at the counter of the small-town diner, scarfing down his last bite of a burger as his son, Tyler, sipped the last of his chocolate milk. It had been another long day, running between his construction job, picking up Tyler from school, trying to stretch his last paycheck through the week. His hands still ached from hammering drywall all afternoon, but at least tonight he could afford this simple treat with his boy. Jake wiped his mouth, gathered their trash, and got up to leave. That's when he heard the smallest, softest voice from behind him. "Can I have your leftovers?" Jake froze mid-step. He turned around slowly. Sitting a few feet away, half hidden behind a booth, was a girl, maybe 10 or 11, with wispy brown hair falling into her pale face. Her hands gripped the wheels of her battered wheelchair, as though she had to summon courage just to ask. And her eyes, those big, weary eyes, told Jake everything he needed to know. She wasn't just hungry. She was hurting. Jake felt his chest tighten. The diner fell quiet in his mind as he walked back to her table, kneeling to meet her gaze. Tyler clung to his jacket, watching silently. "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. "Emily," she whispered. "Emily," he repeated, offering a small smile. "You don't want my scraps, sweetheart. How about I get you something fresh?" Her eyes widened in surprise, then darted to the older woman sitting in the corner, who looked away, ashamed. Her mother, Jake guessed. Her thin coat hung loose on her shoulders, and her face was lined with exhaustion. Jake stood, motioning to the waitress. "Can we get a hot meal here?" "Anything she wants." "And one for her mom too." The waitress nodded, tears already brimming in her eyes. Emily's lower lip quivered. "But, we don't have any money." Jake put a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry about that, kiddo. Just eat." He sat back down with Tyler, and soon plates of warm pancakes, eggs, and soup arrived at Emily's table. She stared at them like she didn't know if she was allowed to touch them. Then, finally, she smiled, and dug in. Jake watched in silence, memories of his late wife flashing unbidden into his mind. How she'd insisted on donating to the food bank even when they didn't have much themselves. "Everyone's fighting their own battle, Jake," she used to say. "Never turn away from someone just because you think you've got it hard." For years after she passed, he'd struggled to keep that spirit alive. But tonight, in those little girls' eyes, he saw what it meant again. When Emily finished eating, she wheeled herself over. "Thank you," she murmured, her cheeks flushed. Jake knelt again. "You're welcome, Emily. You deserve more than cold leftovers." She hesitated, then leaned forward to hug him. He felt her fragile arms around his neck and swallowed the lump rising in his throat. When Jake and Tyler finally walked out into the night, Tyler slipped his hand into his dad's. "Dad," he said quietly. "Yeah, buddy. Mom would have been proud of you tonight." Jake stopped walking, squeezed his son's hand, and let the tears fall where no one could see. That night, he learned something he'd almost forgotten. It doesn't take wealth to change a life, only a willingness to see people, really see them, and to answer when kindness calls. And somewhere in that little girl's shy smile, and his own son's quiet words, Jake felt hope again. Because the smallest acts of compassion can light the darkest corners of the world.